couple of initiatives. Obviously, we need the support for two reasons. One is to, inshallah, renovate the masjid, and the second is to also buy back the shares so we can get closer and closer to ownership, which that will increase our financial independence significantly, inshallah. There is an announcement that tomorrow will be a youth night session at 7:30, starting here at 7:30. Sayyid Abbas will be joining us, inshallah. Oh, you will not, sorry, I heard that wrong. There will be a youth night session led by some of the brothers, inshallah. But Sayyid Abbas, unfortunately, won't be able to make it tomorrow. And without further ado, please help me in welcoming Sayyid Abbas with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Ashura of Imam Hussein alayhi salam has many lessons for us. And I was coming back from a revert connection gathering that we have. And when speaking to some of those that are new to Islam, and you ask them about how did you think of, for example, the first Ashura that you ever had? Some of them say that it felt for me, it was very interesting, that some occurrence that happened 1400 years ago can be remembered and mourned as if, for example, it happened yesterday. Many of those that come into Islam, they're amazed by how that fire of remembering Imam Hussein alayhi salam is never extinguished. And actually, year by year, that as we pass, there becomes a greater thirst to remember Imam Hussein, to love him. His Ashura today inspires many of those that are fighting against oppression. And it teaches us many different lessons. When you look at great individuals, the biggest difference between someone who is great and someone that is weak is what? One of the major differences is that a great individual takes very heavy occurrences, difficult tests, and turns them into opportunities, and is completely calm and relaxed when they deal with great ordeals. That's when you know someone is their personality is very great. They dealt with this huge matter very calmly, very wisely. But weaker individuals, those that have not grown spiritually, have not become complete, usually small events, things that maybe for other individuals don't have much, cause much alarm, they make a big deal out of it. And you say, wow, I can't believe, because you imagine that person is like a child that haven't grown yet. And something that is very small for others, for them is a great deal. A lot of times when you travel with someone, this is what you notice. You travel with one person and you notice that, for example, they don't like the person in the airplane, the tray is down, the seat is back up, or different things that it bothers them, they can't deal with it. But yet there are those that, for example, even their airplane was threatened to be shot down, and yet they were relaxing or sleeping in the airplane. So great individuals are those who take big ordeals and tests and tribulations, and they turn them into something that is small. And that is our goal. Our goal is to become like Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because he was one of those individuals. Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was azim, was great. I want to look at some of the narrations that examine how great the Karbala of Imam Hussein, how big of a test it was. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. Your tragedy is so great in the heavens and for all the dwellers of the heavens. This was the tragedy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the test of Imam Hussein. Or sometimes we have in tradition that Imam Hassan alayhi salam has a conversation with Imam Hussein. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam begins to cry for Imam Hassan alayhi salam. He says, إن الحسين ابن علي دخل يوما إلى الحسن عليه السلام فلما نظر إليه بكى. He began to cry. فقال له ما يبكيك يا أبا عبد الله. What makes you cry, Hussein ibn Ali, Imam Hussein? أبكي لما يصنع بك. I cry, my dear brother, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, what will happen to you? What is going to happen to you? فقال الحسن عليه السلام إن الذي يؤتى إلي السم. The person that will give me some, for example, يدس إلي فأقتل بي. I will be killed, I'll be martyred by this poison. ولكن لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. But no day is like your day, Hussein ibn Ali, my brother. You're crying for the poison that I face. The future I will be poisoned to death. But no day is like your day. So we can never compare, however great the events, even today when we face. Or for example, throughout the world, innocents are facing. No day, we learn this, that no day is like the day of Ashura. No day is like your day, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Why? One of the reasons for this is that the value, the higher, the greater the value of that person that is being oppressed, the more sad you become. The purer that person is, the greater sadness it causes us for that person to be harmed and hurt. People have different degrees. And Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam was the most complete, was the complete human being. So when something befalls him, it's different than happening to someone else. Someone who has the capability to take this world and to make it heaven on earth. That is the capability of the Imam. Can Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if people followed him, could he have conquered the world and rid the world of oppression and filled it with justice and worship of God? Yes, he has that capability. So we are sad that they took such a being with such potential and they slay him. When we look at Prophet Musa alayhi salam, also we see that he asks Allah to show him one of the greats, one of the best people around him. And you remember, when you look at these traditions, you have to know that when Prophet Musa asks, for example, to see the best person, he's asking the best person after me, obviously, because he's a prophet. So who is the best person? And he sees a person that does not look, for example, have prostration marks on his head, doesn't have, for example, the longest of beards necessarily, or the holiest of clothing. He sees a normal person who has trials and tribulations. Allah sends Prophet Musa alayhi salam to a person that was suffering from the external, but inside, he was very calm. Why? Because we said great people are those that take ordeals and tests, and they make it something that is bearable. And you see that he has different diseases, leprosy, different sicknesses, he cannot walk. But yet at the same time, You see that he is making dua, he is making prayer. And at that time, actually, the tradition has that Allah takes away his sight as well. Now he cannot see. So what is such a person going to do? His health is gone. He cannot walk. He has skin disease. He cannot see. And you see that his dua is mata'tani bihima haythu shit wa sallabtani ayyuhuma haythu shit. You blessed me and gave me, for example, this vision and these blessings whenever you wanted, and you can take them whenever you want. وَأَبْقِيَتْ لِي فِيكَ طُولَ الْأَمَلِ. But what remains with me is my hope in you, Allah. Imagine the worst things we can, foresee in ourselves or that could happen to us, our health. And he cannot see anything, complete darkness. And yet he's praying to Allah. He's thanking Allah. Ya Baru Ya Wasu. Oh, one who does good, those who does, he has given me blessings. So you understand that individuals that look at a test of God and tribulations that we have, and he takes this and he completely looks at it in a different way, as a favor. Can this happen? Is this even true that a person can take something that we see as bad? There's a side note here that we never make dua for calamity and for bala for ourselves. We're always doing dua for al-af wal-mu'afat, for example, for forgiveness and afiyah and health, for example. We're always making dua and prayer to be healthy. But if this ever happens to us, God forbid, and it does happen, what is the proper way to deal with this? The proper way is to change the way that we view things, change the way that we look at things, and to have complete reliance on Allah. These are how those great individuals, they looked at what looks for us as something difficult, something evil. But yet it's nothing but the blessing of God. How can you turn that? It is that vision, your perception. As someone has said, that perception of these trials and tribulations is more important than that tribulation itself, your perception. And this will lead some people, sometimes you'll see them very joyful. They have high levels of spirituality. They'll be very joyful, very happy. Even though they're suffering, they're in great torment. But yet you see them, they're very good. And others, sometimes you have nations, for example, if you look at the statistics, some of the nations that we have today are the best in terms of financial security, in terms of, for example, there not being crime, for example, in that country. But yet sometimes you see the most amount of suicide there. So that happiness has to come from within. And where does happiness come from? Our perception of life. So one of the great lessons of the Ashura of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is how to deal with these trials and tribulations that we have. All of us, no matter what age you are going to have trials. Right now it's summertime. The students are actually happy because they don't have tests. Some of them, they hate it. You have test exams once a week. Midterms, for example, these are trials. And some people, when it comes to even graduating, going to a college or university, they don't get accepted. They become depressed. They become sad. How can such a person overcome, for example, failure? Or when it comes to marriage, some people, they try to marry someone they really like, or they want them to marry, and it doesn't work out, for example. They become sad. If you learn one thing from Ashura, which is very important, one of the important lessons is to change our vision, to change our perception, and how we deal with things that we don't like, and how we don't have sakhat. The opposite of rida, of contentment, is being in the state of sakhat, complaining, overly complaining, not being happy, saying, Allah, why did you do this to me? The root of it comes from the fact that we do not want to serve God. We want God to serve us. We want this life that we have 70, 80 years, and we're trying to focus all of our wishes and desires in a very limited life which is going to pass away. Instead of focusing on a hereafter, the eternal, to build this, we're trying to focus on this and want everything here. When Allah does not give us the dunya, our Quran mentions, Allah takes away or measures and lessens our rizq. We say, for example, Rabbi Ahanan, our Lord has insulted me. Why has my Lord insulted me? I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted to be in this situation. I want to be super healthy. I wanted to be an athlete. God, why did you do this to me? So again, it comes to that vision that you have. How do you view God? What does Rab mean? What does lordship mean? If I ask you, what is the definition of a Lord? It comes from tarbiyah. A Lord is one who takes you and develops you. For example, if someone takes care as a Lord of plants, gives it, for example, sunlight, or sometimes maybe indirect. It needs indirect sunlight, that plant can't get direct sunlight. It needs its vitamins, for example, or nutrients that you give the plant, once a week. It needs water. And then it grows and becomes kamal and perfect, and he has done tarbiyat of the plant. He is the Rabb of the plant, for example, in that meaning of it. Animal the same way. How does one do tarbiyat of humans? Allah is the Rabb of the entire universe, but he does tarbiyat and takes us to our excellence, takes us to our perfection by different trials and tribulations in this world. Different trials and tribulations. Have you ever been tested in a difficult manner? Were you patient? Now I want you to think of this. How do you feel afterwards, after this trial? After something you did not like? How do you feel afterwards? More stronger, more complete. Now imagine never being tested. Imagine if life was just like a road that was straight. And for example, one that one would want to fall asleep. But those twisty and windy roads are the ones that a driver has to pay attention and wakes them up. Those are actually the ones that make someone a good driver, right? So in the same way, when it comes to our challenges that we have, Allah puts these, and one of the philosophies of these is for us to become complete. Because we are created for completion. And Allah has a purpose for creating everything. And he is the Rabb of everything, and therefore he takes everything and makes it reach its perfection. They say a mystic person was once invited to a house, and the child of this person had a raw onion. In Persian food, they love, or we love, to have onions, raw onions, in some of our foods, not cooked, just raw. And some of these onions are harsh, they're bitter. And this kid didn't know what it is exactly or want to taste it and took a big bite. And for us, the spicier that onion is, the better. But the kids started running around, crying, for example. So the father comes, gives the child, of course, to the mother to calm down, and comes back and says that he says, an onion for a kid that is, spicy, that is, harsh in taste, is bitter, causes them to run away. But for an adult, we like that spice, we like that harshness, that bitterness. Then he says that trials and tribulations are in the same way. Just how a kid runs away from that harsh onion, a person that is not developed runs away from that test. When that bitter test comes, they run away. They don't want anything to do with it. But that person that is an adult, that their spirit is an adult, that they are complete, they come to this test of Allah, and they actually not necessarily enjoy it, they understand it, and they appreciate the fact that they are growing in it. Can we reach a certain position, and this is something, difficult to reach, but can you reach a position where those things that you don't want in your life, that you would rather them, it causes you hardship, to come in and for you to understand it and to thank Allah for it? And say, Allah, thank you for this lutf that's khafi, a hidden lutf. Because what is this doing for you, if you understood what I was saying so far? What does that bitterness cause for you? Completion, kamal, perfection. Another story I'll give. This is our teacher of, Sheikh Ahmad al-Mujtahidi would give the story. And sometimes you hear the story, and I remember hearing it, I wouldn't understand it. Years later, and I would come to some little bit of understanding. That a person came to a mystic person came to his house and asked his wife, bring me food. And wife says, sorry, I did not prepare anything. We do not have anything in, for example, to cook. We don't have any supplies. Tonight, we don't have dinner. It's okay. Then at least come and bring some oil. We're in the darkness. Turn on the light. Back then, they would turn it on with kerosene or oil. So sorry, we did not have oil. So imagine starving, being in the darkness at night. We wouldn't like it. It would be miserable, especially this day and age. But then he worships Allah for the entire night and says, Allah, thank you for these two blessings. Why is he viewing this as two blessings? Not having light, not having food. And again, in the narrations, we never make dua for this. But when it happens, the minimum stage is the stage where I accept it. I'm not in sakhat. I'm not complaining. I say, Allah, I'm in rida. I'm in calmness. I'm in contentment. I say, Allah, you gave this to me? Okay, fine. Okay, I'll sleep early tonight. But higher than this is a person that is actually appreciated of this because he looks at life completely different than the materialist. He looks at life as a limited time, 70, 80 years, for me to become perfect, for Allah to bring His test upon me, and for me to have patience and to thank Him for those trials and tribulations. This is one aspect of Ashura that many times is forgotten, that the purpose of the resistance of Imam Hussein, yes, it was for Islah and for reformation, but also in Ziyarat al-Arba'in you call Imam Hussein alayhi salam Habibullah, the friend of Allah. How does Allah treat His special friends? Sometimes by taking away the material, taking away everything from them and watching them. Watching Imam Hussein perform his salat, watching Imam Hussein alayhi salam be appreciative of the blessings, even though arrows are showering down, swords are coming down on the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But you look at his dua, and it's all reflective of a person that completely looks at life differently and is looking at tarfi and raise of rank, is looking at the spiritual side of life. Such a person becomes invincible. You cannot harm such a person. Look at the dua that Imam Hussein alayhi salam has when he's in the madbah. Some say this is when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in, what we say in Farsi, the qatlaga or the madbah. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for me to find it. It's a dua of patience. It seems like I cannot find it right now, but he makes dua to Allah, and it is a dua that he seeks, and he has private conversation with God. One of the issues that, if inshallah we find it later, I'll mention it. When you look at dua Arafah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you see again this tawheedi and monotheistic outlook of life. You see, for example, the dhikr of Prophet Yunus in it. La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Remember when Prophet Yunus was in the stomach of a fish or whale, he made a dhikr. He made a remembrance. And this remembrance relieved him of gham and grief. He said, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. There is no God save you. All glory to be to you. I am indeed of the wrongdoers. Anyone here of dhikr Yunusiyya? They call this dhikr Yunusiyya. Actually, many times they say when you do this dhikr, it will cause for you to have elevation and rank. Many people recite this dhikr to get very close to Allah. Many people recite this dhikr to remove themselves from grief. What is it? La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. It's in Salatul Ghufayla. This, when we do the prayer, mustahab prayer between, one of the prayers between Maghrib and Isha, we do this dhikr. And it says that Allah saves the believer. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam recites this in Dua Arafah. La ilaha illa ant. There is no God but you. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. But Prophet Yunus said one part of Tawheed, one part of this dhikr. Imam Hussein continues with other stages of monotheism. Then he continues, says, La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntum min al-muwahideen. That there's no glory, God, but you, save you. I have been one of those professing your oneness. I'm a muwahid, for example. La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntum min al-khaifeen. I am of the stage of a khaif, the person that is fearful of Allah. All of these stages you see, he implements it in Ashura. He does the dua in the day of Arafah. But he implements and shows the world that he is of the khaifin. He only fears Allah. He doesn't fear an army of 30,000 people in front of him. Or muwahideen. He only sees oneness of God. He knows that God is controlling everything. And if there's protection, Allah will give him that protection in this world. If there's going to be martyrdom, Allah will bring that martyrdom from him. He's a true muwahid. So these are stages of Tawheed and monotheism of Imam Hussein and the Dua Arafah that he implemented in Karbala. La ilaha illa an subhanaka inni kuntu min ar-rajeen. That I have been one of those that has hope in you. Imam Hussein, his army is the army of hope. He never had despair in the day of Ashura. Even though he lost his family members and friends, and he knew that his sister, his family would be, and children would be captives. He was of the Rajeen, he was of the hopeful when it came to Ashura, in the day of Karbala, in the day of Ashura. La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-raghibin. I desire you. I'm just going to mention the last word, muhallalin. I am those that say La ilaha illallah. I am of the sa'ilin. I am the one that asks you, Allah. Don't ask anyone else, for example. I'm of the musabbihin, the one who has glorified you. I'm of the mukabbirin, those that have said Allahu Akbar. Allah is great. Rabbi wa Rabbu aba'ini al-awwaleen. You are my Lord and the Lord of my fathers. So we see the Tawheed and monotheism of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Dua Arafah, the different stages where he adds onto the dhikr of Prophet Yunus and mentions other parts of Tawheed. This is how we have been training, that as followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we have to change our perception in life. We have to truly become a muwahid. Brothers and sisters, we see today that our enemies are abundant, and we see that the calamities of the end of times, as we're getting closer to the end of times, are becoming more severe. We saw ourselves, those that commit genocide come to this very country, and our lawmakers are racing to give them a standing ovation and cannot stop clapping for them. We see this in our own eyes. After killing children, incinerating children, burning them, for example, amputating them. We see this. We need to be able to have the skill of dealing with calamities as time passes. Because we have from our teachings that the calamity and the bala will become worse and worse as time goes on. When we reach to the end of times, it will be a place full of trials and tribulations for everyone. So unless we understand how to view even this genocide that is happening in Gaza, we have to be able to understand it. We have to be able to have reliance. You see, for example, the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and you see Nabi Khidr, that Prophet Khidr brings a different type of knowledge, a different type of vision to Prophet Musa, who's commanded to judge by evidence. But Prophet Khidr is commanded to judge by reality. And you see the story that when Prophet Khidr comes and kills a lad, a young person, Prophet Musa cannot bear it anymore. Why do you kill a young boy? And he looks at this, but Prophet Khidr has a reason for this. Because those that truly understand Allah, they're looking for that wisdom behind it. They know there's this infinite wisdom that God has. And what is that wisdom? He explains later on. And some of it is in the tradition. Some of it is in the verses of Quran. He explains that this boy is going to cause trouble for his parents. His parents were going to be, for example, shaky in faith. This boy, for example, was going to go to the hellfire. We can never do this, obviously. We do not have the permission to ever judge on the reality of things. We need evidence. And we can't even judge. We're not mujtahids. We're not judges, for example. The judges, they are those that have evidence. And they look at the evidence and they give the judgment. But he looks and sees that this boy is going to be one that will end up in the hellfire. So as some people they ask, they say, I have trouble with understanding this verse. Why did Prophet kill a young boy, innocent boy? And he explains in the traditions, or explains that he says that he's going to go to the hellfire if I continued his life. When the angel of death takes someone's life, do you complain and say, why did he do that? Because he was commanded by Allah to do this. In the same way, Prophet Khidr was commanded by Allah. But there is this truth inside, there's this benefit inside that's very hidden inside it that nobody, even Prophet Musa alayhi salam, does not understand. But Prophet Khidr understands. It says that if I do not take his life, he's going to go to eternal hellfire. So I'm going to take his life. So he misses 70 years in this dunya, but instead he gains an eternity of benefit. His parents are sad. Their faith is going to be protected. But instead, I'm going to give, for example, God will give for them a daughter. And from that daughter, that will be a very pious and good person, there will come, from the descendants of this daughter will come prophets. So therefore, the daughter, God will replace the son with a daughter, a pure daughter, and God will save this boy. So we understand from the story of Prophet Khidr, the story of Prophet Musa, that this world has mystical reasons that we don't understand. And we do not even know what's going to happen to us tomorrow in 5 minutes. So when you see calamity, or what do you see, for example, something that comes that you do not like, give Allah, obviously say that Allah knows better, my Rabb knows better than me. I'm going to submit to His will. He has something that is good for me. He is one doing tarbiyat of me. Two, there's a hikmah and wisdom that I don't know. And because of this hikmah and wisdom, things will become much better. Brothers and sisters, we do not know the benefit of what is happening, for example, in Gaza. Because when Allah does something, first of all, He gives us free will. Second of all, when He is controlling the universe, whatever He does it for benefit. What will happen in 50 years? What will happen in 10 years, 20 years? We do not know. Today, we cannot answer those questions in detail. But later on, future people will tell and say, oh, this was the benefit. Just how, when they martyred Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we did not see what happened. But now when we analyze Ashura, just in this world, besides the fact that Imam Hussein alayhi salam his rank was raised, we see the benefit of Ashura with dealing with Yazid, with later on dealing with the Umayyads. That the bodies of the Umayyads of Muawiyah and Yazid later on were dug up by the Abbasids, for example. And that it made for us today very clear haqq and batil. The entire most important thing is for Islam to be saved, Islam that is from the Prophet and the Imams. For us is very clear the path of Imamat and the path of Khilafat, for example, the path of the Umayyads, the path of the Abbasids, the path of leaving Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam saved Islam. He saved Islam, but we understand Ashura, the benefits, many years later. So therefore, when you are tested, when tribulations come, you have to be like that person, that example that I gave, or that scholar gave, is that like that onion, that it is, the appetite exists when you're kamil, when you're perfect. And you come to that trial and test, and you ask Allah for help, but you understand there's reasoning for it. You cannot be like that child that runs away from it, panics, and God forbid, loses your faith. That you have to understand that this world works by Allah's will, what is good for you. Not necessarily, but what you think is good for yourself. So hopefully this is one of the lessons that we learn from Ashura of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that we make dua that we are of the greats, those that can deal with life's tests and challenges. Let's please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If we can dim the lights, I want to say a little remembrance and mention of Imam Hussein's family, sister of Imam Hussein, Lady Zainab alayhi salam. That this time period is the time period of Lady Zainab. It's important for us when Allah blesses us with a new center, alhamdulillah, that we work hard for this center. We take use of Allah's blessings. And one of the best things we can do with a center, a place that Allah gives, is to mourn Imam Hussein, to cry for Imam Hussein, and to make this place a Mubarak, blessed place by the tears of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Brothers and sisters, the tests and tribulations of Imam Hussein are in such a way that we have tradition that no day is like your day. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and there are many different family members of Imam Ali, many different daughters of Imam Ali that were present. For example, Ruqayya was present, Kulthum was present. So was Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab is another great example of one who viewed the world completely different. And this perception and worldview allowed her to be the patient one. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, some say that when each shaheed was martyred, she would rush and she would come and take that body, holy body of the shaheed, the martyr, and take it to the camps, respect it, and take it to the camps, not to allow that body to be there, or to be in front of that body, to witness that body. When Ali Akbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was martyred, how Lady Zainab ran to help Imam Hussein because she knew this is the Jihad al-Akbar of Imam Hussein. She knows that this is the death of Imam Hussein. That a child, a young adult, that was the most similar to Rasulullah. When he spoke, they were reminded of Prophet Muhammad. When he walked, they were reminded of the Prophet. And she knew that at such a time, for a father to lose such a son like Ali Akbar, that it's going to be difficult. So she ran towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But some say there were two shaheeds that she never ran for. These two shaheeds, they say, were Aoun and Muhammad. They say that she never ran to come in front of her own sons. That when her own sons were martyred, some say, Lady Zainab never came to come in front. And the reasoning for this, some say, is the fact that she did not want Imam Hussein alayhi salam to be embarrassed in a way. For Imam Hussein to look at the mother in front of the child, and for the mother to cry, this would be another trial and tribulation. It would make the test of Imam Hussein even worse, even harder. She did not want to add to the pain of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And how difficult is it for a mother to not come when that child needs her the most, when that child is shaheed. But out of a respect for Imam Hussein, out of wanting patience for Imam Hussein, this patient lady, Lady Zainab, they say, did not come. Inna lillah, inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, we ask you to change our perception of life, to make us grow when it comes to kamal and perfection, to allow us to become a great soul before we leave this world, not to become a child, to remain a child when it comes to this world. Ya Allah, we ask you afiyat and mu'afat, we ask you health and goodness, we ask you for wealth, we ask you to take away calamity and bala for us, but also we ask you for patience, We ask you for iman and resilience, inshallah. Ya Allah, help all of those that are oppressed. Bless the souls of our departed. Give shafa and healing to all those that are looking for shafa, inshallah. Answer everyone's du'as here. The guests of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, answer their du'as. May Allah protect all of you, inshallah, and make you of the companions of the Imam of the age and expedite his return. Make us soldiers of the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.